Hey there, and welcome to Light Novel Sound, where I bring stories to life through voice. Today, we'll embark on a journey into the world of Astral Pet Store by Ancient She. And if you'd like to read along, you can find the original novel at lightnovelworld.co. So, what's not to love about transmigrating into a world full of pets? There are mighty creatures of all shapes and sizes, some cuddly, some fierce, and some, both. And I've even got my own pet store to run. Sounds great, right? Well, not exactly. My younger sister can't stand me. I've got zero talent for handling astral pets. And don't even get me started on the bizarre system I'm stuck with. But hey, it wouldn't be a proper transmigration without a few ridiculous challenges, right? Before we jump in, a huge thank you to Ancient She for creating this incredible story. And if you enjoy the audiobook, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It really helps support the channel and keeps these stories alive in the YouTube world. Alright, let's dive into Astral Pet Store. Chapter 441, Master Trainer Medal. Sure. Su Ping nodded. If they couldn't find his name, he would question what the Trainers Association was up to. Shahaoqi's decision had surprised the guard, including those standing in the line, that brother Lin and Yu Yingying. None could have foreseen that the master trainer would take Su Ping inside. This was not a joke, okay? No master trainer could be that young. The solemn look on Shahaoqi's face gave people the answer they were seeking. They began to feel sorry for the young man. He had angered the master trainer because of his ignorance. Later, if his name was not found, the young man would be unable to find excuses. He could kneel and apologize, but nothing would work. What a frivolous young man. Some of the older onlookers shook their heads and heaved a sigh. The already angry brother Lin was gloating over Su Ping's impending doom. Why don't you show off a bit more? You'll see what happens after offending a master trainer. Sir. The young man and the young lady could not believe that their teacher would get involved with a man like this. It was an action beneath his status. He should have straight off told the young man to leave. You two go back and get your study materials ready. You, come with me. Shahaoqi did not explain anything to his favorite students. He told them to get ready once again and left. Su Ping calmly went after Shahaoqi. Lin Feng sneered after seeing that Su Ping didn't turn a hair. Still pretending. He comes and tries to fool a master trainer. Nothing and no one will help him once his name is added to the blacklist and is banned from the Trainers Association forever. He deserves it. Ignorance is a sin. He cannot think that everyone will spoil him. I didn't know we would see such a lunatic here. I thought that those wackos merely existed in the news, not in reality. You're wrong. There are more freaks in reality than in the news. The onlookers chattered. Some people felt sorry for Su Ping, thinking that he was merely making one mistake, but more were gloating. Su Ping walked behind Shahaoqi. They met many other trainers who would stop and say hi to Shahaoqi along the way. Soon, Su Ping and Shahaoqi reached a building that was more like a villa. Shahaoqi looked at Su Ping. Young as he was not nervous at all. Wait here. I will go and ask, Shahaoqi said. No problem. Su Ping nodded. After Shahaoqi went upstairs, Su Ping looked around the lobby. Many trainers were coming and going. 4 master battle pet warriors were standing on guard by the door. Su Ping didn't remain standing in the lobby. He went to the lounge, found a chair, and sat down to wait. He didn't wait for long. Shahaoqi had returned from upstairs in less than 10 minutes. He quickly went down to the lobby but failed to see Su Ping. To his relief, he found him in the lounge. Which base city are you from? Shahaoqi asked, still in disbelief. Su Ping could tell that Shahaoqi had already verified his identity. Longjiang base city, Su Ping answered. Shahaoqi asked a follow-up question at once. Do you run a training stadium or do you work in a store? I work at the Pixie Pet store. I'm the boss. Shahaoqi stood in a daze. Just then, he called the vice chairman and the latter sent him the name and all the pertaining information of the invitee. Shahaoqi realized that Su Ping was the man. The name, his family information, and the store he worked in were all checked out. This young man was indeed the trainer they had invited. I heard about this Moonfrost dragon that has been progressing at an unbelievable speed. Did you train the dragon? Xiaoqi could not help but ask again. It was just that Su Ping was too young for him to believe the facts. It was the first time he had seen a master trainer that young. Even though he had been born in the Holy Light Base City, which was a sacred place for all trainers, he had never seen a master trainer close to 20 years of age. Yes, that's me. Su Ping nodded. Su Ping answered, fully at ease. Xiaoqi felt himself trembling. He could not tell if it was due to excitement or astonishment. Some time before, the vice chairman had shown him a video clip. It was the clip of a battle and the origin was unclear. But it was clear that the video had not been fabricated. The Moonfrost dragon in the video had freaked Xiaoqi out. From the size, shape, limbs, the number of teeth, given his years' experience as a trainer, he could tell that the Moonfrost dragon had just reached adulthood. The Moonfrost dragon was merely at the 7th rank. To be more exact, it had just reached the 7th rank. However, it had demonstrated abilities close to the 9th rank, and even stronger than other 9th rank battle pets. That was amazing. It was true that dragons were born to be superior and there could be some mutation, but the fact remained that the Moonfrost dragon was unique. Xiaoqi had once thought that not even a top-level trainer could have done that. How did you train the dragon? The question had slipped Xiaoqi's mouth before he knew it. Su Ping answered. Nothing much. Just practice. That answer was unexpected. But Xiaoqi soon found himself an explanation. Apart from the beginner trainers, the trainers would usually have their unique training methodologies. To ask a question like this was not polite. He was glad that Su Ping didn't seem to mind the question. Sorry for the inappropriate question. Mr. Su, what is your trainer's rank? Xiaoqi's apology was followed by another question. Su Ping was speechless. Not this again. I don't know, probably elementary ranks? I have never taken the tests anyway. I don't know which test I can pass. Su Ping gave an honest answer. Mr. Su, you must be joking. If you have trained the Moonfrost dragon, then you must be at the master level. You cannot be at the elementary level with such results. Xiaoqi forced a smile. No wonder the Trainers Association was inviting Su Ping to that conference. The association was most definitely thinking about recruiting such a special genius. Is that so? Master level it is. Su Ping nodded. After all, Xiaoqi was a master trainer. He had to know what he was talking about. What a young man, with such a huge potential. Mr. Su, I wonder who your teacher is, Xiaoqi said with admiration. A 20-year-old master trainer. There was no doubt that Su Ping could become a top-level trainer in the future. Maybe there was a slight chance that Su Ping could become a Holy Spirit trainer who would enjoy even superior positions. Even a legendary battle pet warrior would have to butter up to a Holy Spirit trainer. Teacher? Does a system count? What? Nothing. Self-taught, Su Ping said. Xiaoqi didn't understand a single word, but he thought Su Ping probably didn't want to leak the information. Self-taught? Not possible. To become a master trainer at the age of 20 was unbelievable as it was, not to mention without a teacher. Mr. Su, the conference will be held tomorrow. You have just come a long way from Longjiang Base City. Have you found a place to reside? How about you crash at my place tonight? Xiaoqi proposed. He felt glad that he was seeing his students off, which gave him a chance to run into Su Ping. Su Ping was from Longjiang and barely knew anyone in the Holy Light Base City. This was the perfect opportunity for Xiaoqi to build a relationship with him. In the future, when Su Ping became a top-level trainer, he would have already had an outstanding connection. Sure. Su Ping nodded. That would save him time that he would otherwise spend on finding a hotel. Mr. Su, this must be your first time here. How about I find someone to show you around the headquarters? Xiaoqi asked. No need. I'll just walk around by myself, Su Ping answered. He was also interested in this place. Of course. Shi Haoqi nodded. Shi Haoqi thought of an idea. Mr. Su, please wait for me here. I will go and get my ID. No one will stop you with it, no matter where you go. Usually, he would leave his ID in the office drawer. After all, he had been there for years. He didn't need an ID to get around. Okay. Su Ping nodded. He had been in trouble just because he didn't have an ID. He had to admit that the ID would make things much easier for him. Shi Haoqi left in a hurry and came back in a hurry. He gave a medal to Su Ping. It was a hexagon medal with the edge shaped like a flame. A tiger was carved on the front of the medal. There was a dent on the back, in which a picture could be put in. Shi Haoqi's picture was in it. Su Ping noticed that the tiger was similar to the stone tiger by the gate outside. Shi Haoqi noticed that Su Ping was checking the tiger. He volunteered to explain, "This is a battle pet that the Trainers Association's first ever Holy Spirit trainer trained once. The battle pet was a beast of the 9th rank without hope of moving up. However, our first ever Holy Spirit trainer made the beast break through to become a beast king, and a powerful one at that." That cleared up Su Ping's confusion. Having said goodbye to Shi Haoqi, Su Ping left the lobby and began to wander around. Soon, Su Ping reached a cluster of buildings that looked like school facilities. Many people were gathered there to line up in front of one of the buildings. Surprised, Su Ping took a closer look and noticed the words "Test Center for Trainers" written on the building. Is this the place where trainers take their tests? Su Ping wondered. Since he was there, he thought he might just as well go and have a look. Authorized personnel only. Is that a master trainer medal? A guard stopped Su Ping, but he showed Shi Haoqi's medal. The guard opened his eyes in astonishment. He realized that Su Ping had to be close to one of the master trainers. As such, the guard let Su Ping go in immediately without asking further questions. The other people cast curious glances over as they heard the guard's shout of surprise. "Here? Isn't that?" In the crowd, a group of young men and young girls were standing together. They could not help but turn around when they heard the guard using the word "master trainer." One of them was so shocked that he was frozen on the spot. Chapter 442, Awe-inspiring. The person who was frozen on the spot was Lin Feng. Together with Yu Yingying and his other friends, he was waiting in line to get their tests. The guard was treating that young man nicely. Lin Feng and his friends immediately recognized that it was the same young man who was creating trouble earlier, later entering the premises with a master trainer. Is he holding a master trainer medal? Lin Feng and his friends were all struck dumb with astonishment. Is that guy truly a master trainer? Yu Yingying stood aghast. That guy was of her age. She was still struggling to pass the test for the 6th rank when that guy had already become a master trainer. While they were still processing their shock, Su Ping had noticed the sensation stirred up by the guard's words. With a frown, Su Ping hurried away. He went to the path set for authorized people only and entered the test center. It was a long while after Su Ping left when Lin Feng and his friends came back to their senses. They looked at each other and then darted Lin Feng a glance. Lin Feng was embarrassed and his cheeks were burning up. As they made their way to that place, he had been ranting non-stop about how that guy was doomed. However, it turned out that the guy was able to enter, and he was holding a master trainer medal. The guard showed the guy into the building with respect. Whether the master trainer medal belonged to the guy or not, it was inconsequential. The fact that the guy had remained safe and sound was enough proof that something was going on that Lin Feng was not aware of. Lin Feng wouldn't possibly be so crazy as to think that the master trainer had been fooled by the guy. After all, a master trainer was not an idiot that could be easily deceived by a kid. Oh, crud. That punk is not going to remember me, is he? Lin Feng was on tenterhooks. He was not in the mood to respond to the cruel looks of his friends. At the test center, Su Ping walked through a long corridor. To his left was a gate. At the entrance of that gate was a board with the words "First Rank Trainer" written on it. That was the location for tests of first-rank trainers. To his right was the gate leading to the location for tests of second-rank trainers. He went on. The left gate led to the third rank's test and to the right was the one for the fourth rank. The intervals between gates were long. Su Ping kept going. When he was about to arrive at the gate leading to the test location for the third rank, propelled by his curiosity, Su Ping shot a glance inside. It was a long and dim pathway. Su Ping went in. At the end of the path was a thick iron door by which stood a guard wearing silver soft armor. "Are you here for the test?" asked the guard. "Nah. Just wandering around." Wandering around? The guard clearly didn't buy that. Su Ping didn't pry anymore since the inside was guarded. He went back to where he came from. He continued his walk down the corridor. Su Ping noticed that there were more people gathered in the paths leading to the test locations of the 4th, 5th, and 6th ranks. Many people were standing in a line, which was particularly true for the test of the 5th rank. Dozens were waiting to get the test. Su Ping went on. He was no longer seeing more gates. He turned the corner at the end of the corridor. Soon, he arrived at an open space. Connected to the spacious lobby were several new paths. Su Ping saw some ripples of astral powers on the walls of the paths, which was an indication of seals. Su Ping looked around. Suddenly, he heard a noise coming from one of the paths. It seemed that someone was performing a test. Intrigued, Su Ping went over. At the end of the path was also a heavy metal door, but there was no guard present. Su Ping went over and gently pushed the door. Without a lock, the door opened a crack. Su Ping pushed the door wide open. Roar! He heard a bellow that was like a tiger or a lion's howl. But Su Ping recognized right away that the beast was a dragon. Still, the dragon didn't seem to be among the powerful ones. Su Ping took a glance around. It was a spacious room, or, to be more exact, a plaza. A dragon was prostrated at the center of the room, which was 7 to 8 meters tall. It was the carrion dark dragon. It was a beast with an 8th rank bloodline. Although, technically, it did not belong to the pureblood dragon family. The carrion dark dragon was a result of combining dragons with demons. Carrion dark dragons were usually considered a subspecies of dragons as well as a demon. Judging by the size and look of that carrion dark dragon, Su Ping decided that this one was at around the 7th rank and had just reached adulthood. But, since the carrion dark dragon had an 8th rank bloodline and had some demonic bloodline mixed in, the carrion dark dragon was incredibly cruel and brutal, even more so than the average dragons. At the moment, standing in front of the carrion dark dragon was a girl in a white dress. She was putting her hand on the forehead of the carrion dark dragon. There was a blue glow coming off from her palm. It seemed like the color of astral powers but darker. The glow flickered and the hue around the glow changed. Su Ping believed the girl was trying to gain control of the carrion dark dragon. Sweat oozed out from the girl's forehead. She was struggling. "Come on," another girl said. She was also very young-looking. The second girl was a brunette. The short hair gave her quite the clean and neat look. She was clenching her fists, wishing she could lend her strength to the girl wearing the white dress. However, as the brunette uttered the words, "Come on," the prostrating carrion dark dragon was stimulated. The beast's eyes reddened as it let out a sonorous roar. This was not just a shout of protest. The carrion dark dragon was trying to overwhelm the girl in the white dress. The dragon's roar made the girl feel dizzy. She lost control of the carrion dark dragon and was forced to the side. The majestic carrion dark dragon raised its head. It was still a dragon. To be forced to lie down was an insult. "Oh crap!" the short-haired girl shouted in surprise. She hurried over to help the girl in the white dress. "I failed again." Thanks to the brunette, the girl in the white dress was unharmed, though she turned pale. Frustrated, she darted a glance at the enraged carrion dark dragon. Roar! The carrion dark dragon was still roaring angrily. The last bit of sanity remaining in its brain prevented the beast from going after the two girls. That was because the carrion dark dragon could still pick up an uncomfortable feeling from the two girls. Soon, the carrion dark dragon found its prey and changed direction. The two girls were not scared, although the carrion dark dragon was getting away. They were about to stop the beast when they noticed that it was running toward the door. Before they knew it, the door had opened and a young man was standing there. The two girls were scared by this turn of events. The carrion dark dragon was too fast. They didn't have enough time to stop it. "Run!" the brunette shouted at Su Ping. "Yes." Su Ping stared at the carrion dark dragon that was dashing toward him. He pulled a long face once he realized the dragon was seized by rage. A gust of cold and violent energy burst out from him. He eyed the carrion dark dragon as if it were nothing more than a puny insect. Indeed, to him, the carrion dark dragon was nothing to be afraid of. Even if it were at the peak of the 8th rank, he could have smashed the beast to pieces. Hiss! The almost completely deranged carrion dark dragon suddenly felt the surge of killing intent. The short human being was producing this weird feeling. Suddenly, the dragon seemed to be able to see many demons and devils flying over from the back of the human being. The demons and devils were very powerful and intimidating. That was a kind of strength that the carrion dark dragon would never understand or imagine, one that could shatter the earth and heaven alike. The next second, the carrion dark dragon stopped in its tracks. The redness in its eyes receded as it stared at the short human being in fear. The demon's bloodline in the carrion dark dragon told it that the young man was generating that fatal danger and the smell of death that the carrion dark dragon was more than familiar with. It could hardly imagine how many killings the young man would have had to go through to exhibit this smell of death. The carrion dark dragon couldn't stop shaking. Then, the poor beast slowly got down to its knees in front of the human being and put its huge head on the ground. The carrion dark dragon wrapped its rotten wings around its head, shuddering in fear. Chapter 443. What? Watch out! The two girls ran over from the distance. Hardly had their voices faded away when they saw the carrion dark dragon getting down on its knees. The two girls stood in bewilderment. What is going on? Neither of the girls could understand. Why would the carrion dark dragon that was just losing control a moment before get down on its knees? While he stared at the shivering dragon, Su Ping gradually stopped the surge of killing intent and restored his calm demeanor. "Put it away now." The brunette was the first to come back to her senses. She shouted at once. Since the huge carrion dark dragon was in the way, the girls couldn't see what Su Ping had done. Either way, since the carrion dark dragon was on its knees, this was the perfect chance for them. The girl in the white dress hurried to dig out a red flag from her bear-shaped bag. She poured astral powers into the red flag and waved it at the carrion dark dragon. Whoosh! As she waved the flag, a huge, red mouth appeared. There were only lips, not teeth. The mouth opened up to more than 10 meters wide and swallowed the shivering carrion dark dragon. The shivering carrion dark dragon didn't struggle. Instead, it seemed that the beast was relieved. "Hey!" Su Ping looked at the flag with immense interest. The flag was evidently a unique artifact that could store things in another dimension. As the carrion dark dragon disappeared, the two girls turned to Su Ping at once. Both of them heaved a sigh of relief to see Su Ping safe and sound. The girl in the white dress patted her not prominent chest to calm herself down from the shock. The brunette had a very curvy and well-developed figure. As her nervousness vanished, anger occupied her mind. She stepped forward. "Who are you? How did you get in here? Do you have any idea how dangerous it was a moment ago? Lucky for you, that beast was affected by something. Otherwise, you would be a goner by now." Su Ping was speechless. "Why are you yelling at me?" The brunette, "Here. I saw that the door was open, so I thought I could come in here and take a look. Are you performing a test? Who is the examiner?" Su Ping explained casually. He sized up the two girls curiously. Both of them seemed to be too young to be examiners. "The door was open." The girl in the white dress felt embarrassed. The brunette darted a glance at the door behind Su Ping and then glared at the girl in the white dress. "Who are you? Are you here for the test?" "This is where 7th-rank trainers take their tests," the brunette asked Su Ping. She was doubtful. Su Ping seemed to be too young to be a 7th-rank trainer. So, are you the examiner? Su Ping asked. The brunette said grumpily, of course not. Anyone who wants to take the 7th-rank test will have to book the examiners in advance. The examiners are all master trainers and they do not have time to stay here all day long. You don't know this? Then, why are you here? The girl in the white dress yanked the brunette's clothes. Hey, were you hurt? The former asked Su Ping. Her voice was sweet and soft. What a cute girl. Nope. Su Ping soon realized that they weren't examiners. Are you here practicing? Why else? The brunette snapped back. Fine. Whatever. Su Ping shook his head. He turned around, ready to leave. Wait, the brunette shouted. Su Ping kept going. Hey, I said wait. If I waited just because you told me to, that wouldn't look good on me. The brunette's mind was in a mess. Su Ping did stop. The girl took a deep breath to swallow back all the beautiful words she was about to blurt out. What did you do? Why did the carrion dark dragon kneel before you? Did you use some taming skills? The girl in the white dress also cast a glance at Su Ping with curiosity. No. Su Ping was not interested in that question. He turned around again. I thought you were asking me for my phone number. Bah! The two girls stood in a daze for a while. The girl in the white dress hesitated for a moment before she discarded her theory. I don't think it's a taming skill. Not even the 8th-rank taming skill could have tamed a carrion dark dragon that was losing control. Do you think the carrion dark dragon was sick? Yeah, possibly. The brunette felt that such a theory was reasonable. Probably some ache in the belly. True. Anyway, is that carrion dark dragon a male or a female? I don't know. But I don't think I've seen that thing. So, a girl? No wonder. Su Ping went out of the gate and took a look at the other paths. There was no noise. No one else was taking tests there. He shook his head. Su Ping left the building. Nothing was interesting in the test center. He went back to the corridor where he met a group of young people. It's you. The young man leading the group inwardly moaned his bad luck when he saw Su Ping. It was unavoidable to run into your enemies. Hey, men, I'm very sorry about what happened before. I was being too gossipy. You wouldn't mind, would you? The young man was Lin Feng. He and his friends were there for the test. It never occurred to him that he would run into Su Ping again. Who are you? Su Ping stared at him in confusion. Well, Lin Feng felt his face was surely looking quite colorless at the moment. He inwardly sobbed for his fate. It turned out that Su Ping had never paid attention to him and had already forgotten about everything. Well, that would do. It saved him trouble. Anyway, I'm sorry to have disturbed you. Lin Feng smiled apologetically. He was no longer in the mood to keep an appearance in front of his friends and his apology came out naturally. He wasn't stupid. Su Ping was holding a Master Trainer medal. He must have obtained it legitimately. Lin Feng knew better than to create more troubles for himself. He would suffer if Su Ping was just playing dumb before. In that day and age, all the big potatoes liked playing dumb. But the actual dumb people like himself were living an honestly hard life. Su Ping kept his gaze on Lin Feng for a bit more. Ah, I remember you. Were you the one I met by the gate? Lin Feng didn't know what to say. Pa. He wished he could slap himself on the face right then. You were the one digging through the dumpster looking for food, right? Su Ping sounded serious. Lin Feng was about to explain when he suddenly understood something. With a blushed face, he smiled fawningly. That was me. Good for you. Su Ping patted Lin Feng's shoulder and walked away. Lin Feng tried to weep but failed to shed a tear. He exhaled in relief after Su Ping left. He turned around, only to see his friends looking at him as if he were an idiot and they were trying hard not to laugh. Just laugh. Stop covering up your mouths and squeezing your eyes. He did it on purpose. Lin Feng said to himself. He was sure that Su Ping knew who he was. Su Ping must have said those words on purpose to get back at him. What a mean dude. Lin Feng shook his head and said to his friends, "Go and line up for your tests. Ying Ying and I will go take the test for the 6th rank. After our tests, while it is still bright outside, let's go find a nice hotel. I just asked someone. There's a master trainers conference tomorrow, the one we heard from the guard at the gate. I heard that there would be open classes at this conference and the second half of the conference will be open to the public. Let's come back earlier tomorrow so we can grab good seats." The others giggled for a bit but then put on serious looks. "Good luck to all. Let's go." They encouraged each other and went their separate ways. Su Ping walked around the other places after he left the test center. The headquarters was a huge place. Apart from the test center, Su Ping saw a place where the wild beasts were being kept in pens. It was like an independent park protected with high walls and titled battle pet warriors guarding the perimeter. There was a library with a thorough collection of books, including the most updated and comprehensive illustrated books of Astral Pets. Thanks to Xiaoqi's Master Trainer medal, Su Ping was able to go around unhindered. He had to admit that it was a massive place. Su Ping walked fast and he wandered around for 2 hours, but still, there were many places he had yet to visit. And he got lost. He asked some guards and finally found his way back to the villa that Xiaoqi had taken him to. It was already past 5 in the afternoon. "You didn't go out?" Xiaoqi just happened to come downstairs. He hurried to Su Ping. Su Ping did a stretch and replied, "I got tired from walking around." Then he asked, "Are you getting off work?" "Yes, I am leaving. But it's not 5:30 yet. I get off work at 5. Does that count as clocking out early?" "Why would that matter? What's it to you?" Xiaoqi was speechless. He changed the subject awkwardly. "Let's go home." "Okay." Su Ping got up. They met many people along the way. They all bid Xiaoqi goodbye and at the same time cast curious looks at Su Ping, who was walking side by side with Xiaoqi. The young man is walking shoulder to shoulder with a master trainer? There must be something about the young man if he weren't a fool. They committed Su Ping's look to their memories. Mission alert, 100 completed. Deadline, 5 days and 8 hours. The system's alert blared in Su Ping's mind, catching him off guard. Su Ping was freaked out. "Don't make sounds without warning." "Anyway, I almost forgot that I have a system," Su Ping complained. "The system?" Su Ping browsed through his process. He had done nothing and yet he had already accumulated 5 points. Was it because he was following Xiaoqi around? That is to say, in this mission, I have to establish my reputation, right? Su Ping thought to himself. At the same time, they had reached the roadside where many luxury cars were parked. There was a strong man who stood by the car. The driver hurried over and greeted Xiaoqi with respect. The driver was curious about Su Ping but he didn't ask any questions. He went to open the door for Xiaoqi. They drove away and arrived at Xiaoqi's home in less than half an hour. "Here we are." It was a manor. There were high walls surrounding it and traffic control was in place on the streets. With little traffic outside, it made for a nice and quiet place. This was a manor in the Holy Light District. This was a manor in the Holy Light District. Important things deserve to be repeated. Feel free to repeat it a few more times. The luxury car drove into the yard and parked in the garage. Some maids were in the process of collecting the clean laundry. What a comfortable living environment. Xiaoqi showed Su Ping into the house. The door seemed to be made of some rare and unique wood. "Dad is back." There was someone in the living room. Then Su Ping heard slippers. A girl wearing leisurewear came over from the living room and saw Su Ping and Xiaoqi, who were changing their shoes by the foyer. "It's you." The girl opened her eyes wide. Su Ping looked up, equally surprised. The girl was the brunette that he had met as she practiced for the 7th rank test. "Who's there?" another soft voice asked curiously. Someone else walked over and she was dragging her feet on the ground. It was the girl in the white dress. Chapter 444, The Conference. It's you. The girl in the white dress had a startled look on her face. Su Ping's reaction was similar. Yes, it is me. Shahaoqi, for some reason, was just as surprised. You too. The two girls and Su Ping could not help but look at Shahaoqi. Why are you so surprised? Shahaoqi came back to his senses. Do you know each other? He asked. No. Yes. Him. The three different replies came out at the exact same time. What a coincidence. The hem was said by the brunette. She crossed her arms in front of her chest. She was still upset since Su Ping had left so resolutely before. Shahaoqi stood in a daze for 2 seconds. He put on his slippers and went inside while he introduced them to Su Ping. They are my daughters, Zhenxiang and Tongtong. The girl in the white dress was Zhenxiang. The brunette was Tongtong. Su Ping darted a look at the girl in the white dress. So, her name was Zhenxiang. Shahaoqi introduced Su Ping. This is Mr. Su, our honored guest. You can tell that Brother Su is our age, but he is already a master trainer. How incredible! His two daughters stared at Su Ping in mute amazement. Master trainer? He? This dude? Dad, have you been drinking today? Asked Tongtong, the short-haired brunette. Shahaoqi refuted grumpily, I didn't drink. Be serious, I'm not joking. Be sure to learn from Brother Su. Don't always think you are so talented. Remember there is always someone better. Brother Su should be your example. Tongtong, being a short-tempered girl, retorted, Dad, how old is he? Master trainer? Fat chance. Why haven't I heard of him? Zhenxiang was sizing up Su Ping curiously. Shahaoqi kept a straight face. Do you know that our dog Big Yellow went to your bedroom and peed on your carpet last night? Tongtong stamped her feet. When was that? How come I didn't know? So, there are things that you don't know. Shahaoqi snorted. He said to Su Ping as he stepped to the living room, I have spoiled my daughters. They lack manners. Do not mind them. Sure. Su Ping nodded. The two girls rolled their eyes at Su Ping at the same time. Shahaoqi told Su Ping to sit down and feel at home while he had to go upstairs to take care of something. Su Ping and the two girls were the only ones staying in the living room, of course, as well as some servants and maids that were like the proverbial third wheel in the room. The servants and maids? Su Ping sat down on the couch and took the liberty to take a look around. That manor was in the Holy Light District and its value was at least in the hundreds of millions. The master trainers can sure make money. He exclaimed inwardly. Listen. How did you fool my dad? Tongtong raised her eyebrows as Su Ping sat down, really making himself at home. Fool him? I don't know. I just said a few words and your dad believed me, Su Ping answered. Tongtong knitted her eyebrows. Somehow, she felt Su Ping was pulling a prank and it sounded like her dad was not that smart. My dad is a master trainer. You'd better show me everything. Tongtong sneered. Everything? Do you mean in my soul or my body? You. Tongtong blushed in anger. This guy is a dog. Zhenxiang blushed shyly as well. She pulled Tongtong's hand. Maybe there is something we're not aware of. Let's ask Dad later. There was nothing that Tongtong could do to Su Ping. The only response she came up with was a snort. Since the two girls were at a loss for words, Su Ping was enjoying the momentary happiness. Soon, Shahaoqi was done with his business. He came downstairs and saw the three in the living room. So, how is it going? You're all young people. I bet you're getting along. We are getting along just fine. Su Ping opened his eyes. Lying through his teeth. Enraged by his reply, Tongtong snorted again. Feeling awkward, Zhenxiang kept silent. You must be hungry. I will tell them to get dinner ready, Shahaoqi said with a smile. He told the maid to get the butler and to have dinner ready. Shahaoqi sat down in the living room and told his daughters, you two must learn from Brother Su. He will attend the Master Trainer Conference tomorrow. His attending the Master Trainer Conference. The two girls almost jumped up in shock. No kidding. It was enough that Su Ping fooled our dad. Now he's going to attend the conference? Dad, you cannot be serious, Tong Tong shouted. I am serious. Shi Haoqi added, Brother Su was invited by the head office. Do you think I'm the one who invited him? What on earth are you thinking? The head office. The two girls could not believe it. They thought Su Ping had fooled their dad into taking him to the conference. It turned out that Su Ping received the invitation from the head office. So, the head office was also fooled by Su Ping? Pa! He truly is a master trainer. The two girls looked at each other. Both could see their shared astonishment in each other's eyes. They turned around to look at Su Ping, who was still as composed as before. They became even more curious about him. A master trainer at such a young age? How was that even possible? They had never heard of that before. There was no one like him in the Holy Light Bay City. If everything was true, then he had broken the record of the youngest master trainer to date. I'm not, Su Ping answered. You're not? I am. Tong Tong was losing her mind. He was taunting her. She shouldn't have asked any questions. Damn my mouth. Tong Tong was mad at herself and Su Ping. She sat there, sulking. Shi Haoqi smiled at his angry daughter. Finally, someone caught you off guard. Soon, dinner was served. It was a fancy setup. There were seafood and other meats, but every dish was cooked with the most delicious parts of the edible beasts. In the afternoon, Shi Haoqi had called home and told the maids to get ready. It was the first time for Su Ping to enjoy such a grand meal. All of a sudden, he felt the benefit of money. Money could still help even when a person had no combat strength. At least, one could be well fed. Have you prepared the formal dresses for tomorrow's conference? Shi Haoqi asked his daughters over dinner. Zhenxiang nodded. Yes. Shi Haoqi looked at the casual clothes Su Ping had on. Brother Su, do you need me to prepare you a suit? Millimeter cents. Su Ping swallowed the food down. No, thanks. That would be too much. He and Shi Haoqi were neither relatives nor friends. He already felt bad enough by staying there. Although, he didn't seem to be embarrassed when he gobbled down the food. Of course, he wouldn't go as far as to have Shi Haoqi get him a suit. Besides, he didn't think there was anything wrong with his clothes. He had spent hundreds of coins on them. Sure. Shi Haoqi didn't insist. The two girls sized up Su Ping with weird looks on their faces. Was this guy really going to the conference? As a master trainer? Both girls felt a surge of oddly mixed feelings. Envy, jealousy, hatred, sadness. Ah, what a complicated mixture of emotions. I'm done. Tong Tong ran upstairs immediately after dinner. She could not wait to find out if Su Ping did have the skills of a master trainer at the next day's conference. Exchange ideas with other master trainers? Su Ping would be so embarrassed if he was so utterly ignorant that he couldn't answer any questions that the other master trainers asked. Tong Tong still didn't trust her unreliable dad. Daddy, I'm full. Excuse me. Zhenxiang put down her chopsticks and went upstairs as well. The two girls were certainly sharing their secret thoughts upstairs right then. Shi Haoqi shook his head. Brother Su, don't mind them. Enjoy yourself, he said to Su Ping. Sure thing. Su Ping made a clean sweep of the dishes. Chapter 445, Enrollment. After dinner, Shi Haoqi found Su Ping a nice and cozy guest room. Su Ping took a bath, cultivated for a bit, and then went to bed. He organized his time well. Soon, one night had passed. The next morning, Su Ping got up on time, freshened up, and went to the living room to wait for breakfast. The maids were as busy as bees. They swept, mopped, and filled the fruit bowl with fresh fruit. Shi Haoqi was sitting on the couch, reading the newspaper. He greeted Su Ping gladly. You're up early. How did you sleep? Very well. Su Ping nodded and sat down on the couch. The butler went in and reported to Shi Haoqi, Sir, your students are here. Shi Haoqi raised his head from the newspaper. Tell them to come in. The butler gave an affirmative response and went away. Soon, he came back with a young man and a young lady who was dressed up nicely. The two seemed to be a bit nervous. They didn't even take a look around the manor. They stood by the entrance to the living room and bowed to Shahaochi. "Good morning, sir." Shahaochi nodded to them. "Feel free to sit down. Have you had breakfast?" "Yes." "Oh." After the greeting, Shahaochi said no more and kept on reading his newspaper. Right then, the young man and the young lady noticed Su Ping, who was sitting on the other end of the couch. They found him familiar. They recognized him upon a closer look. You're the one." They realized that this young man was the one who was making trouble at the gate and then taken to a test by their teacher the day prior. The guy claimed that he was participating in the conference. Such a guy should have been punished severely. Why was he sitting in their teacher's home? Shahaochi looked at his students and immediately understood why they were surprised. "Listen, this is Mr. Su. We have already verified that he is invited to the conference. He has unique training skills. You must listen to his speech carefully at today's conference. But how much you can learn, that will be dependent on your brains." Well, the two students could not comprehend what he meant by all of that. This was quite a drastic turn of events. So drastic that they couldn't even process it. If it weren't for their teacher, the two of them, two sixth-rank trainers, wouldn't even be qualified to participate in the conference. But this guy here was invited? He was actually invited, like their teacher? While the two students were still standing in a daze, Zhenxiang and Tongtong had come down from upstairs. The two of them had put on brand new formal dresses. Zhenxiang was wearing a light purple princess dress which exposed her collarbone. The dress was ladylike and not too revealing. Tongtong was wearing a black princess dress. A row of silver-gray crystals decked her neck all the way to the chest, adding an elegant and yet not too exaggerating grace to her. Su Ping took a glance at them. He had to admit that he was amazed, but since he had been staying with Joanna for a while, he had already become immune to beauties. "Xiang, Tong Tong." The girl student came back to her senses when she saw the two girls. "You look very nice today," she exclaimed, her eyes glowing. "Sister Xiao, you look nice as well." The two girls were happy to see the girl. She was their father's star student and the three girls were always close. 3 would be enough for a drama. The same applied for 3 girls. They clustered together, chattering on and on about their dresses and jewelry, the foundation or color of their lipsticks. They made recommendations to each other and would burst into laughter when they agreed on something. The 3 gentlemen standing by their side would feel their blood freeze. The male student looked at Su Ping, who was sitting on the couch. He wasn't even in the mood to ask how he had gotten the invitation. They were heading to the conference later. He would know by then. Shahaochi didn't let the conversation continue endlessly. He gathered Su Ping and his daughters to sit down for breakfast once the food arrived. Tong Tong glared at Su Ping and snorted again. She could not wait to see how he was going to communicate with the other master trainers later at the conference. After breakfast, everyone was ready. They gathered by the door. They were going to ride a car that was like a Lincoln limousine that could easily fit all of them. While riding the car, Shahaochi kept on telling things to look out for in the conference to the 2 students and his daughters, in case they would offend some big potatoes. After all, the other master trainers would also bring along their children or star students to attend the conference. Those who could get to the conference were certainly not the common folk. Soon, they arrived at the headquarters of the Trainers Association. The crowd outside the gate was even larger than the day before. People were standing on 2 sides. Guards were trying to maintain the order. The space in between the 2 sides was for the vehicles. That year's Master Trainers Conference was not kept confidential. It was widely known that the first half of the conference was not open to the public, but there would be open classes during the second half, which had caught the attention of many trainers. All of them had arrived early in order to grab a good seat. It wasn't common to listen to classes taught by many master trainers. The open classes could be quite beneficial. Look at the license plate. There must be a master trainer inside. Whoa, I wonder which one. Look, another one. OMG. The crowds gathered at the sides were thrilled. More and more luxury cars drove by. The license plates were exclusive to master trainers and had the letter M at the beginning, symbolizing their master status. As they looked at the excited onlookers from inside the car, Zhenxiang, Tongtong as well as the two students couldn't help but get nervous. Soon, the luxury car drove into the compound and pulled over by a building with a strange structure that Su Ping didn't get to see the other day. The building's shape was like a beast standing on all fours. The staircases to the sides were like two arms, which led to the conference rooms upstairs. Many luxury cars were waiting outside in the parking lot. Isn't that old She? Your daughters are turning out to be more stunning than ever. Of course. They have my genes, you know. Stop it. Fortunately, your genes didn't do much. Otherwise, I wonder how they would ever grow up to be such pretty girls. As soon as they came off from Shahaoqi's car, they met others who were stepping out from another luxury car. The one talking was a middle-aged man in his 40s, he seemed to be close with Shahaoqi. Shahaoqi rolled his eyes at him. Both Zhenxiang and Tongtong knew their dad's friend. Nice to meet you, Uncle Dai, they said politely. Nice to meet you, too, girls. Nice to meet you, Master Dai. Shahaoqi's students, Chen Xiuxiu and Zhu Jin were clearly more nervous. Master Dai smiled at the two students. I've heard about you too. You must be Chen Xiuxiu. I read the paper you published on Trainers Weekly. You have a very good understanding when it comes to training pets of the Thunder family. Chen Xiuxiu blushed from excitement. To hear the words very good from a master trainer was a high honor. Blushing, Chen Xiuxiu answered, Sir, thank you. I was inspired by my teacher. That is why I came up with such a thesis. She didn't forget to praise her teacher as well, even though the paper had little to do with Shahaoqi because he majored in the study of pets of the fire family. Zhu Jin was wearing a smile but he was a bit awkward. He had once published a paper on the Trainers Weekly and yet Master Dai didn't mention that. It was evident his paper was not praiseworthy. Of course, Zhu Jin hoped that it was merely because Master Dai didn't see that paper. Old Dai, why didn't you bring your wife? Shahaoqi was very happy about Chen Xiuxiu's previous answer. He asked his friend a question, you know about my wife. She's not interested in this. She is just into getting her hair done. She does that for you. Well, that's not a bad thing. Shahaoqi turned his way to Su Ping. Brother Su, this is old Dai, Master Dai Lemao. This is Brother Su Ping, the trainer that our vice-chairman has told us about, the one who trained the Moonfrost Dragon. Dai Lemao was surprised. Just then, he was wondering why the young man didn't greet him. Dai Lemao didn't ask that question out loud on account of Shahaoqi. Shahaoqi's introduction had stunned Dai Lemao. He is the one who trained the Moonfrost Dragon? Old She, are you sure? Dai Lemao could not help but ask. Of course I'm sure. I've already checked. Shahaoqi could fully understand Dai Lemao's mood. Brother Su is a genius. He will surely become a top-level trainer in the future. Shahaoqi gloated. Both Chen Xiuxiu and Zhu Jin were astounded. Why does our teacher praise this young man so much? As for the Moonfrost Dragon, that was one of the rarest dragons. One must be at least a 7th-rank advanced trainer to be able to train a rare dragon like that. A trainer any weaker wouldn't even have the courage to do that. Zhenxiang and Tongtong were eyeing Su Ping in surprise as well. It never occurred to them that Su Ping had trained such a rare dragon. The two girls were still doubtful of Su Ping's identity, still worried that their dad had made a mistake. Have you? Dai Lemao sized up Su Ping, still in disbelief. Yes, he has, Shahaoqi answered with certainty. Dai Lemao wanted to ask Su Ping to show a skill or two as proof, but that seemed to be impolite and rude. He supposed that Su Ping would pull a long face and walk away. Su Ping didn't bother explaining anything to those suspicious people. He would be exhausted if he had to prove something to anyone who questioned him. After all, he had merely met one of Shahaoqi's friends there. Who could tell how many friends there were? If he had to prove himself every time? No, I cannot even think about that. Su Ping had become used to this kind of questioning. Alas, he had to blame himself for being too brilliant, +2+. They walked upstairs and chatted. Dai Lemao didn't offend Su Ping. He treated the latter quite nicely since Shahaoqi had been respectful to Su Ping and insisted that he had verified his identity. Dai Lemao had seen the video of the Moonfrost dragon. The dragon could exhibit such great powers when its rank was not that high. The trainer had to be really something. Soon, they entered a conference room. There were many people gathered. There was a round table with dozens of chairs at the center of the room. Outside the circle were rows of seats for the audience. Next to the room was an exhibition where food was served. On the walls hung the portraits of some master trainers as well as a list of their contributions. All the master trainers had garnered some academic achievements. Su Ping saw Shahaoqi's picture and what he had done. He had improved the refinement method for pets of the fire family, and he had also developed a way to refine elemental powers using photothermal ways. That second was Shahaoqi's masterpiece, a skill which could enrich an elemental power's richness. There was even hope for the pets of the fire family to pick up the skills of the light family. Even a low-rank skill of the light family, for example, the photoflash, could generate stunning results. Chen. Soon, Shahaoqi met another friend. Ah, you two again. The man named Chen walked to Shahaoqi and Dai Lemao with a smile. Chen had also brought some young people with him. They introduced each other's students. This is Su Ping. He's participating in the conference. He's the one the vice chairman told us about. Shahaoqi introduced Su Ping separately from his daughters and students. Chen stared at Su Ping in surprise, and so did the students he brought with him. Dai Lemao could fully identify with Chen, but he just smiled silently. Shahaoqi took them to a place to sit down, chatted, and waited for the conference to start. I heard that Senior Bai will attend the classes, Dai Lemao said, his eyes glowing. Shahaoqi nodded. So I've heard. Senior Bai's special cultivation method for dragons has benefited me greatly. He proposed to better dragons' constitutions from a genetic level to propel mutation and evolvement. No wonder he's one of the best trainers. We still have much to learn. Right. The more I know, the more ignorant I feel. Chen nodded. Zhenxiang, Tongtong, Chen Xiuxiu, and the other students were all holding their breaths nervously as they listened. Senior Bai. That was not the full name, but everyone knew he was one of the 12 most powerful trainers in the Trainers Association. Even titled battle pet warriors would have to treat those trainers with respect. Such trainers enjoyed a high status and had connections that the public could not imagine. They were second only to legendary battle pet warriors. While they conversed, there was a commotion by the door. They looked over and saw a group of people walking in with a hunchbacked old man as the leader. 2 middle-aged men and a bespectacled middle-aged lady followed the old man. That is Master Ding, Shahaoqi whispered. Chapter 446, Not Worthy Enough. Dai Lemao and Chen turned around, their faces clouded. I had heard that old Ding was in closed-door cultivation. He rarely goes anywhere. People say that he's focusing on the thunder-fire cultivation method, attempting to become a top trainer. Sounds about right. He became a master trainer 20 years ago, right? It's about time that he makes another breakthrough. You guys, don't call him old Ding. He'll hear you. Shahaoqi lowered his voice. Dai Lemao heaved a sigh. Right. If he does succeed, we would have to use more polite terms to address him. Here he comes. Let's go and say hi. Chen had already stood up. Building relationships had to be done early. Otherwise, buttering him up would be that much harder when old Ding did make the breakthrough. Shahaoqi and Dai Lemao nodded. They gathered their students and went to the red-carpeted aisle. Master Ding. Zhenxiang, Tongtong, Chen Xiuxiu, and Zhu Jin gazed at the hunchbacked old man with an unattractive appearance. There was a difference in status even among the master trainers. By seeing how their dad, teacher, had reacted, they knew they would have to pay respects to the man called Master Ding. Su Ping darted a glance at that master but didn't feel as startled. All of a sudden, he saw two familiar faces in the group following Master Ding. Surprised, Su Ping raised his eyebrows. The other master trainers had also noticed Master Ding. Few of the prouder master trainers remained seated. Apart from those few, the other master trainers accidentally stood up and happened to step near the aisle where Master Ding would definitely pass by. Once Master Ding moved closer, the master trainers would go and say hi. The aisle was short, but it took Master Ding more than 10 minutes to arrive at Su Ping's location. Master Ding, long time no see. Shi Haoqi, Chen, and Dai Lemao were pretending to talk about pets while they were observing through the corner of their eyes. When they noticed that Master Ding was close enough, Shi Haoqi accidentally turned around and greeted him with some surprise, calmness, and a bit of natural reaction. Chen and Dai Lemao also acted surprised and said their hellos. They were just calling him Old Ding and now they addressed him as Master Ding. Master Ding's name was Ding Fengchun. He had noticed the master trainers the second he stepped into the room. He was fully aware of how natural those encounters were. He said hi with a smile while his mind was focused on the ones who remained sitting. People wouldn't necessarily remember the ones who treated them nicely. But if someone slapped you in the face, you would never forget and you would become even angrier over time. The ones sitting down. Fine, I won't forget you. They must be your daughters. How smart they are, Ding Fengchun said to Shi Haoqi with a smile. That wasn't entirely offered as false praise. Ding Chunfeng had never cared about Shi Haoqi. However, he remembered Shi Haoqi's daughters well. They were the strong performers of all the master trainers' children. The two girls had good academic scores and they had reached the 6th rank before they reached the age of 20. How talented! In the future, they could become master trainers just like Shi Haoqi. 3 master trainers in one family. How awesome! Ding Chunfeng couldn't help but remember his stupid son who only wanted to become a battle pet warrior. How foolish! You flatter them, Master Ding, Shi Haoqi said humbly. Zhenxiang and Tong Tong blushed in excitement. Su Ping looked at the two girls. How could old Ding tell that they were smart just by the way they looked? You! All of a sudden, someone cried out in alarm and stepped out from the crowd behind Ding Fengchun. The master trainers were talking. Who was the one unable to read the room? It was a girl. Hu Rongrong blushed in shame as she noticed how people were staring at her. But she kept her gaze on Su Ping. She could not believe it. Su Ping was an elementary-level trainer that had just made his first visit to the Holy Light Base City. What was he doing at the conference? Was Su Ping a friend of the 3 master trainers? But he was from another base city. Why? The young man standing next to Hu Rongrong eyed Su Ping for a bit. A glint of coldness rose in the young man's eyes. Rongrong, do you know him? Ding Fengchun wore a kinder look as he noticed that it was Hu Rongrong who had shouted in alarm. Since her grandpa was a top trainer, no matter what she said, Ding Fengchun would never scold her. The ones close to Shi Haoqi were also staring at Su Ping in surprise. Both Zhenxiang and Tong Tong knew Hu Rongrong. Everyone knew about her grandpa and Hu Rongrong had a more exalted status than theirs. Zhenxiang and Tong Tong were proud of the fact that they weren't any weaker than Hu Rongrong in skills. They were also 6th-rank trainers and were studying in famous academies. There was no telling which one of them would become a master trainer sooner. Brother Su, do you know Miss Rongrong? Shi Haoqi asked Su Ping in surprise. Didn't Su Ping just come to the Holy Light Base City? When did he befriend a top trainer's granddaughter when he didn't even find a hotel? Yes. Su Ping nodded. But he merely knew her name. Hu Rongrong was about to answer Ding Fengchun's questions when she thought of something. If she told people how she came to know Su Ping and he got banished or belittled, that would be too embarrassing. She nodded. We met before. Just acquaintances. She gave a vague answer. Ding Fengchun didn't pay more attention to Su Ping. Right then, the young man standing next to Hu Rongrong said with a grin, Little brother Su, we meet again. You told me that you were an elementary trainer and I bought it. I was just wondering, you couldn't possibly be an elementary trainer, could you? Su Ping darted a glare at the young man. Those who didn't know about their past disputes would think that the young man was complimenting Su Ping. The young man was Xiao Fengshu. He was the leading student of the group, and the only one that did not confront Su Ping directly. Su Ping was surprised to see Xiao Fengshu jump out at this moment. He had previously noticed Xiao Fengshu's killing intent, but he didn't mind it back then since he deemed it unimportant. It never occurred to Su Ping that they would meet again and that Xiao Fengshu would no longer hide his killing intent. Elementary trainer? Upon hearing Xiao Fengshu's words, everyone turned to look at Su Ping in surprise. Shahaoqi and Chen were also startled. But Su Ping remained quite calm. For a moment, they couldn't tell if the young man was telling the truth or not. Do you know each other? Dai Lemao asked Su Ping. At the same time, he darted a look at Shahaoqi. Dai Lemao had been wondering about Shahaoqi's words. After all, how could the person who trained the Moonfrost Dragon to be that young? He wouldn't have been able to do that even if he had started cultivating since the moment he was born. Even Hu Rongrong was merely at the 6th rank. Say Su Ping was more talented, he couldn't have made a Moonfrost Dragon develop like that. Shahaoqi was full of questions, but he trusted Su Ping, deep in his heart. Shahaoqi was able to tell back then that Su Ping's calmness couldn't have been faked. Met, but I don't really know him, Su Ping answered. Who are you calling little brother Su? You're not worthy enough. Xiao Fengshu was trying to be sarcastic, but Su Ping was not in the mood to beat around the bush. The reason was simple. Xiao Fengshu didn't deserve it. If it was someone of equal strength, Su Ping might have wanted to argue for a bit. But Xiao Fengshu was too weak. Arguing with him would never be a rewarding task. Su Ping's reply made everyone quiet down. Chapter 447, Get Out. Who was the young man? Everyone, all the students, and Ding Fengchun were all frozen in genuine surprise. Who gave him the courage to talk to the young master of the Xiao family like this? Not even a master trainer's child would offend the Xiao family in such a way. At the same time, from Su Ping's reaction, the onlookers could tell that he and Xiao Fengshu weren't friends. Quite the contrary. They both seemed to have a feud of sorts. After some thought, considering what Xiao Fengshu had said earlier, that young master was not as refined and gentle as he looked. Chen and Dai Lemao had even more questions about Su Ping after the exchange. They felt as if Su Ping had been angered by that shaming remark. Both of them turned to Shahaoqi. If this was a mistake, then it would all be his fault. Shahaoqi turned a bit pale. It wasn't because he had doubts about Su Ping. It was because Su Ping was verbally insulting Xiao Fengshu. Of all the families in the Holy Light Base City, the Xiao family had also had top trainers once, though that top trainer had passed away years and years before. That being said, there was still some lingering influence of that top trainer who had built up quite a network before he passed on. Besides, the Xiao family still had master trainers at the moment. Su Ping had created so much trouble for himself. Zhu Jin, Tong Tong, Chen Xiuxiu, and Zhu Jin were all staring at Su Ping in astonishment. How hot-tempered the man was. Xiao Fengshu's face was clouded. Su Ping didn't soften his words at all, he had not shown any mercy. What a slap on the face. Anyone with a little bit of politeness and sophistication would have merely retorted with some mild irony even when angered, since so many big potatoes were there. Look at Su Ping. He blurted out insults straight away. Talking about poor manners. Brother Su, what do you mean? I don't think I have offended you. Xiao Fengshu pulled a long face. It was beneath him to shout insults back at Su Ping. Faking innocence was the right way to go. Su Ping raised his eyebrows. Heh, you want to play? Of course you didn't offend me. But you know very well what you have done. I despise garbage like you. You are worse than a beast. Even talking to you has dirtied the air. Su Ping didn't go easy on him. Playing? An actor prepares. You should read that. Su Ping's words once again stunned everyone. They felt like a huge piece of interesting gossip was going to be unleashed. The onlookers turned their gazes to Xiao Fengshu. What could he have done to piss Su Ping that badly? Xiao Fengshu couldn't believe what had just happened. I was following the playbook, but you were improvising. How could you make something that was sheer fiction so real? You made it look like I really did something that left you aflame with indignation. Xiao Fengshu looked around through the corners of his eyes. Even though the onlookers didn't wear obvious expressions, he could tell that they were eyeing him strangely. What the heck? Don't slander me. What have I done? Xiao Fengshu was quivering with rage. Su Ping sneered. You know what you did. Of course, he wouldn't spell out the details. It would limit the onlooker's imagination. You. Xiao Fengshu bit his teeth. All of a sudden, he turned to Shahaoqi, Chen, and Dai Lemao. Sir, is he your family member or student? Chen shook his head at once. No. He wouldn't want to offend the Xiao family over Su Ping. Dai Lemao shook his head as well. Shahaoqi tried to mediate the dispute. Mr. Xiao, calm down. Maybe there's some misunderstanding. Xiao Fengshu looked at Shahaoqi, who seemed to be the closest to Su Ping. Sir, is he your student or family member? Shahaoqi shook his head. Su Ping was younger than him. However, the more powerful trainer shall be the teacher. Shahaoqi held Su Ping as his equal and as someone with tremendous potential. Since he's not related to either of you in any way, then, I wonder what an elementary-level trainer is doing at the Master Trainers Conference. Xiao Fengshu was still filing his teeth. He shifted the subject. He couldn't come up with a good explanation for the other issue. Since Su Ping wanted to turn hostile, then hostility he would get. Xiao Fengshu had heard Su Ping admitting that he was an elementary-level trainer at the stadium. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't figure out the relationship between Su Ping and the three master trainers, Xiao Fengshu would have called security to get rid of him. He would even suggest Master Ding adding Su Ping's name to the blacklist. Back then, when Su Ping left, Xiao Fengshu went to the traffic bureau. He knew where Su Ping was going, but he was too late. As luck would have it, they met again. There was no way that Xiao Fengshu was going to let Su Ping go. The onlookers then turned to Shahaoqi. Shahaoqi was confused as to where Xiao Fengshu had heard about the elementary-level trainer matter. Mr. Xiao, Brother Su is not tagging along. He has an invitation, but he lost it. He is a master trainer, our special guest. His words silenced everyone. Zhenxiang, Tongtong, and Dai Lemao were the ones who reacted less emphatically because they had already heard the story. Still, they were still having doubts about Su Ping. They had all heard what Xiao Fengshu had said. Elementary-level trainer? Really? Zhenxiang and Tongtong looked at their father with worry. Dai Lemao and Chen looked at each other. They wished to talk but stopped on second thought. Eventually, they heaved a sigh and decided not to reason with Shahaoqi. They could not understand why Shahaoqi would trust Su Ping like that. He is a master trainer. Ding Fengchun stared at Su Ping in disbelief. The two middle-aged men and the fair lady standing behind him were wondering if Shahaoqi had said the wrong words. The many students were staring with their mouths agape. None of them could believe this. A master trainer that young? From another base city? Not even the Holy Light base city, the incubator of trainers, had witnessed the birth of such a young master trainer. Was Shahaoqi sure that he wasn't making a joke? Hu Rongrong stood in a daze. Her ears had clearly heard Su Ping say he was an elementary trainer. Su Ping sounded sincere back then. She could not figure out why the master trainer believed Su Ping was a fellow master trainer. It never occurred to Xiao Fengshu that this would be the answer he would get. Master Shi, did you just say that he's a master trainer? Shahaoqi knew how unreasonable it sounded and how hard it was to accept. Brother Su has never taken any tests, but he has trained pets in a way that is too difficult for even master trainers to manage. Do not belittle Brother Su Ping just because of his age. Age does not matter. Xiao Fengshu suddenly broke into laughter. At first, he had just tried to get rid of Su Ping and teach him a lesson. However, faking to be a master trainer was not a minor offense. This was a capital crime. His death would be tragic. Master Shi, you have been fooled by his glib-tongued lies. Xiao Fengshu smiled and continued, I once heard him admitting that he was an elementary trainer. Shi Haoqi looked at Su Ping with confusion. Ding Fengchun shook his head at Shi Haoqi to indicate his disappointment. Su Ping asked Xiao Fengshu, then, did you hear me admitting that I was your father? The grin froze on Xiao Fengshu's face. Enough. That was enough. Could you be reasonable? Courting death. Xiao Fengshu glared at Su Ping with a clouded face. Su Ping was about to say something when he heard a snort. Ding Fengchun squinted his eyes. You swear like a trooper. No trainer is like you. Get the hell out. You will no longer be a trainer from this day forward, and you shall be forever disqualified from taking any trainer's tests. Chapter 448, Beaten to Death. Ah. Su Ping squinted his eyes and slowly turned his sight to Master Ding. Su Ping always thought of himself as a reasonable man. Xiao Fengshu was deliberately finding fault with him, but he only limited his response to verbal contention because Xiao Fengshu had only offended him with words. But Master Ding was different. He took no regard of who started the argument and claimed to banish him from the Trainers Association directly. That was to end a trainer's career. Su Ping stared at Master Ding and then darted a glance at Xiao Fengshu, who was not even hiding his smug grin. All of a sudden, Su Ping realized that the beautiful fairness he wanted was pure fantasy. Reality was harsh. Xiao Fengshu didn't go beyond verbal contention because he knew he couldn't defeat Su Ping in a physical contention. It wasn't because Xiao Fengshu didn't want to resort to violence. On the other hand, for people like Master Ding who could determine life and death, it was pointless to figure out who was in the wrong and who was not. They were so bored with that argument that they would rather solve the problem in the simplest way once and for all. Master Ding had influence and power which allowed him to make things easy for himself. Therefore, Su Ping realized that to reason with unreasonable men was to disturb his own mind. Su Ping took a deep breath in and then heaved a long sigh. I am sorry. What? The onlookers had yet to have their calmness restored after being shocked by Ding Fengchuan's words, when Su Ping's apology surprised them again. None of them expected that the young man would apologize so quickly. Shi Haoqi heaved a sigh in relief. He was afraid that Su Ping would confront the tough with toughness. While Su Ping had great potential, Master Ding was one who was about to become a top trainer. The latter had been working in the Trainers Association headquarters for more than 20 years and had built up quite an extensive network. The other top trainers would have to talk to him with respect. Ding Fengchun kept a straight face. It's too late. Shi Haoqi was about to defend Su Ping when he suddenly heard Su Ping laughing out loud. Shi Haoqi gazed at Su Ping, baffled. I'm sorry for having been too nice to you. Su Ping grinned. Abruptly, he lifted his hand. A surge of astral powers oozed out from his palm. The astral powers took the shape of a huge hand and then slapped down. Xiao Fengshu was still gloating over the fact that Su Ping's arrogant words had offended Master Ding when he noticed the killing intent directed at him. He saw that the grin had disappeared from the young man's face and coldness filled his eyes. From that coldness, he saw indifference to everything. Oh no! Xiao Fengshu remembered all of a sudden that this guy was an advanced battle pet warrior. He was about to shout out in alarm when he felt a vibration on his forehead. The next thing he knew was that his consciousness was dying. Even at the last moment of his life, he was confused because he never saw how Su Ping did it. With a loud noise, Xiao Fengshu's body exploded to pieces on the spot. Blood was spilled everywhere. With indifference, Su Ping turned his gaze to Ding Fengchun. The huge hand took a turn and went toward Ding Fengchun. Ding Fengchun had not recovered from the astonishment after the death of Xiao Fengshu. He was slow in reacting. At that critical moment, a bulky middle-aged man stepped out from the entourage behind him. Appalled, the middle-aged man hurried to action. A shield that was shaped like a lion's head appeared over Ding Fengchun. Bang! The next second, the shield cracked. The hand formed by astral powers was still pushing down. An orange shield appeared over Ding Fengchun all of a sudden, trying to stop the hand. The shield was an artifact that he would take with him to protect himself. Even so, the impact of the astral power hand still slapped Ding Fengchun away. He bumped into the wall on the side. Everything happened within the blink of an eye. It was until Ding Fengchun slid down from the wall and stood up in embarrassment that the onlookers came back to their senses. They remained standing aghast. "You!" The middle-aged man who was Ding Fengchun's student glared at Su Ping. Others might not have been able to tell what had just gone down, but given his titled Battle Pet Warrior's powers, he could see right away that Su Ping was able to unleash astral powers externally. This kid is able to unleash astral powers outside his body. That is a skill mastered by titled Battle Pet Warriors. This young man had just killed the young master from the Xiao family in public. He was even going to kill Master Ding. He had violated all laws and rules. If it weren't for the fact that the middle-aged man had reacted in time and had used that secret shield, Master Ding would have died by then. Master Ding was a man who could become a top trainer, one who could overlook the masses. As the middle-aged man glared at Su Ping, the other onlookers turned their gazes to where Su Ping was, still astounded. Did the young man do that? But they didn't even see anything. Besides, how could the young man have blasted Xiao Fengshu open? What was that? Apart from the middle-aged man who was a titled Battle Pet Warrior, the others didn't even think about the possibility that Su Ping was at the titled rank given how young he looked. Shi Haoqi, Dai Lemao, and the others could not even find a word to describe their feelings. None could have anticipated that Su Ping was a man that could attack Master Ding at the slightest disagreement. That was Master Ding. The commotion had garnered the attention of many others. Many people stood up and came over to have a look. Master Ding. The two middle-aged master trainers that came with Master Ding hurried to help the latter up and were relieved to see that he was unhurt. Ding Fengchun, given his master trainer realm, had rich astral powers as well. He had strength equal to 7th rank Battle Pet Warriors. He did look awkward, but he was physically sound. You. Ding Fengchun stood up. He didn't even bother to pat the dust on his clothes. Fury, embarrassment, and disbelief. Who gave the young man the courage to strike him? At the headquarters of the Trainers Association where trainers gather, he, a master trainer, was attacked by the young man. Longshan, kill him. Finish him, now. Ding Fengchun bellowed. Longshan was the middle-aged man at the titled rank. He was Ding Fengchun's student. Although he was a titled Battle Pet Warrior, he was interested in training skills and he wanted to befriend Ding Fengchun. That was why he had taken him as his teacher. He was the most powerful fighter that Ding Fengchun had. Fang Longshan nodded, but he did put on a worried look. Sir, be careful. He is at the titled rank. Please step aside to make room. He was worried that Su Ping would want to put on a life-and-death struggle and that could hurt others around them. After all, those were all just trainers. A titled Battle Pet Warrior could kill them easily. That Xiao Fengyu was a case in point. Titled Battle Pet Warrior? Those words were shocking to everyone. The ones who had just gathered around stood in a daze. This young man, a titled Battle Pet Warrior? Those trainers had never thought highly of Battle Pet Warriors, but titled Battle Pet Warriors were a different story. Master trainers might never care about titled Battle Pet Warriors, but other trainers would have to treat the second nicely. It was hard to believe that Su Ping had been able to reach the titled rank at such a young age. It was the first time that anyone had seen such a young titled Battle Pet Warrior. Titled. Ding Fengchun, who was still consumed with anger, was frozen on the spot. He remembered how Xiao Fengshu's body had exploded and that image made him turn pale. He took a look at Su Ping. That was a young man, not an old guy who had been taking extra care of his skin. A young titled Battle Pet Warrior like him was definitely not a nobody. Who are you? Ding Fengchun pulled a long face and anger still lingered in his eyes. Not even the 4 ancient families nor the Star Organization could attack a trainer in public in the Holy Light Base City without a reason. He would not leave the matter at that. You are not good enough to know the answer. You. Ding Fengchun flew into a rage. Look at him. How wild. Someone come and gather the guards. Capture this man. I cannot wait to find out where you are from and who made you feel bold enough to behave atrociously here. Ding Fengchun screamed in fury. Amplified by astral powers, his voice was heard outside the conference room. The guards were alerted and the leaders of the guards were all at the titled rank. Many titled battle pet warriors would stay on guard there at the headquarters of the Trainers Association. The trainers lacked combat strength. Without the protection of titled battle pet warriors on the off chance that someone or some beasts invaded, the trainers would suffer. Chapter 449. Bloodshed and Humiliation. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Soon, a team of people wearing soft armor dashed into the conference room. They were the guards who were posted outside just then. The leader flew across the crowd and landed where the commotion was. The guards turned pale as the pool of blood leaped into their sights. The team leader went straight to where Ding Fengchun was and stood in front of him. He could tell that Ding Fengchun was the one who had called them in. As for that blood, the team leader was a bit nervous. Master Ding, what is going on? If that pool of blood had once been some master trainer, he would be held accountable for dereliction of duty since he was the leader of the guards. This person killed a man and tried to attack me. Capture him. Alive. Ding Fengchun pointed to Su Ping, filing his teeth. The guard's leader turned around to take a look at the man accused. Su Ping's age surprised him. He was about to say something when Fang Longshan whispered to him, "Be careful, he's a titled battle pet warrior. Let's work together and do not hold back. We must put him down immediately." Titled battle pet warrior? The guard's leader was so frightened that his eyes stared woodenly and his jaw hung low. Could titled battle pet warriors be so young? The grave expression that Fang Longshan wore told him that this was not a joke. Being a titled battle pet warrior himself, it was unlikely that Fang Longshan would make the wrong judgment. Anyway, no one had publicly assaulted a master trainer before. This was a capital offense. Punk, I suggest you submit to the arrest with folded arms. The guard's leader unleashed his astral powers and kept a sharp glare directed at Su Ping. Ignorant. Su Ping said indifferently. Once again, he summoned his astral powers to form a huge fist, aimed to punch Ding Fengchun. The external release of astral powers convinced the guard's leader that Su Ping was indeed at the titled rank. What was more surprising was that right in front of him, under the eyes of many, the young man still attempted an attack at Master Ding. Courting death, the guard's leader shouted. He could just quit his job if he allowed Master Ding to be harmed right under his nose. The guard's leader mobilized his astral powers. With one step he had reached Su Ping and unsheathed his sword. He wasn't just any titled battle pet warrior. To serve as a guard there could be seen as a waste of talent for a titled battle pet warrior. Still, with that level of sacrifice came great rewards. He not only had powerful battle pets, he had been given many stunning secret skills. His focus was on swords. Break! A beam of light rose from the sword. The light shone so brightly that it was blinding. The ones who had been staring even felt a tingling pain in their eyes. How impressive! Charge! The guard's leader looked fierce and malicious. But he noticed Su Ping had remained unaffected. The indifference in Su Ping's eyes had become more evident and there seemed to be some contempt mixed in. How proud the young man was. The moment the light from the sword was about to cut Su Ping's chest, the guard's leader saw a ray of golden light bursting out. That was a glow that he had never seen before, and amid that light, there came a fist. The fist traveled like a shooting star flying across the sky. The very second the fist appeared, it had quickly enlarged. The fist was the only thing that the guard's leader had in his view. Clank! PFF! The fist shattered the sword light. The fist had crushed the strike. The guard's leader was standing on the spot with a dull look on his face as the fist landed on him. Then, like a balloon, the guard's leader trembled and burst open. The armor and all the other belongings he carried were all broken as the man turned into a pool of blood. One punch and a titled battle pet warrior was finished. Everyone was deathly still. The hellish scene had scared everyone into silence. Fang Longshan, who was following the guard's leader and was about to strike, came to a sudden stop. Appalled, he stared at the blood and the bits of remains that were still flying around. A titled battle pet warrior had been killed within the blink of an eye. A titled battle pet warrior. Fang Longshan was so astounded that he had lost the ability to speak. Shuddering in fear, he could tell that there was a fatally dangerous feeling coming off from the young man. What is he? Standing not far away from them, Ding Fengchun was rooted to the ground by terror. He had never cared about those titled battle pet warriors who were merely serving as guards there. Even so, he was well aware that those guards were some of the best in all of human society. The more powerful among the titled battle pet warriors were almost unbeatable. However, right here, one of such titled battle pet warriors had been killed after only one punch. That young man was intimidating. Get over here. Su Ping didn't mind the blood being spilled because he was protected by his astral shield. Not even his hands were tainted with blood. Even though he stood in front of the bloody scene, he remained spotlessly clean. He darted a look at Ding Fengchun, whose facial expression was lifeless, and made a grabbing gesture. The astral powers that formed a fist turned into a hand that grabbed Ding Fengchun and dragged him across space to where Su Ping was. Sir! Fang Longshan shouted in alarm. He tried to stop it but was too late. Also, he did hesitate for 1 second. That was the second when Ding Fengchun was yanked by Su Ping. Su Ping crossed his arms behind his back and said coldly, "Kneel." The hand formed by the astral powers pushed Ding Fengchun down to the ground. Bang! Ding Fengchun tried to fight back, but the astral power hand pushed him down a little bit harder. His knees bent and he dropped to the ground. He knelt in front of Su Ping. A perfect silence prevailed. You threaten to blacklist me and banish me from the association. When you humiliate others, you will be humiliated as well, and your end will come in a tragic way. Su Ping said as he looked down at Ding Fengchun. He had been holding back his rage, trying to treat the world nicely. And yet, this unfair society had to be one that judged people solely by their appearance. If strength was the only way that he could get some say, then he would make himself the only one with a say in the world. Ding Fengchun stared at the space in front of him with dull eyes. Since he was on his knees, he could only see Su Ping's knees. He had been forced to his knees. In front of everyone, including the ones who had tried to butter him up. In front of so many young students. Ding Fengchun's head was buzzing and had stopped working. Su Ping's words pulled him back to reality. The humiliating position he was in threw him into a violent rage that had made him lose his mind. I am going to kill you. Ding Fengchun struggled with all his strength, shouted, and tried to get up. But he couldn't move even one bit. Besides, since he was trying too hard, his face had reddened and he was clenching his teeth so forcefully that they began to bleed. His old face looked even more twisted. The onlookers were still under a spell, greatly astonished. No one said anything. No one dared to say anything to that heartless man, who had the courage to kill people at the headquarters of the Trainers Association before other titled battle pet warriors got there. What a turn of events. Many people were still processing what had happened. Brother Su, Shahaochi mumbled, completely at a loss. Master Ding, with whom they were just trying to build a relationship, was kneeling in front of Su Ping, and couldn't even stand up. This was beyond comprehension. Chen and Dai Lemao had been stunned speechless as well. The young, including Zhenxiang, Tong Tong, Chen Xiuxiu, and Zhu Jin were all dumbfounded. Was this young man, this extremely arrogant person who could subdue everyone, the same whom they came with? He had become quite a different person. Quiet! Su Ping cast a cold glare at Ding Fengchun. He didn't raise his hand. However, the astral power hand had slapped the old master's face. He spat out some broken teeth. His head tilted so much that his neck almost broke. The angry shouts and screams came to a stop. "Go to hell!" Su Ping was not in the mood to badger with Ding Fengchun anymore. The latter threatened to end his career, and for the majority of trainers, that threat would force their lives into a dead end. Ding Fengchun belittled life and Su Ping excelled in that regard. Whoosh! All of a sudden, there came a gust of wind. The astral power hand was cut into pieces by a sharp blade. What? Su Ping turned around. A bellow came from the door as someone rushed in. "Everyone, stop!" Chapter 450, Down on his knees again. Su Ping cast a glance at a figure that was about 10 meters away from him. That was a green battle pet with a slim build. The battle pet even had the look of a pretty girl with thin wings, big, watery eyes, and arms that looked like that of humans and fingers that were slim and delicate. That was a battle pet of the insect family. Those battle pets were small in size but strong in combat. That one was a wind chanter at the upper position of the 9th rank. Whoosh! People turned to where the shout came from. A person dashed over in a blur. By the time the onlookers were able to focus their sights, they saw a person standing by the wind chanter. It was a middle-aged man with a strong body and a solemn look on his face. The man, who was wearing his hair down, was like a vicious beast that was trying to conceal its violent nature. It's Lone Star, a peak-titled battle pet warrior. Someone recognized the man. They shouted in surprise and delight. Lone Star saw Ding Fengchun, who was kneeling in front of Su Ping. He knew Ding Fengchun but never thought that he could ever end up in such an embarrassing state. Lone Star then took a look at Su Ping. It was unexpected that a titled battle pet warrior could be of such a young age. "Look, it's Master Bai." Right then, the onlookers saw a group of people coming after Lone Star. The one walking at the front was an old man wearing a silver robe that was exclusive to top trainers. The old man had white hair but a straight body and rosy, wrinkle-free cheeks. The sharp look in his eyes told people that he was overwhelmed by wrath. The old man's face became clouded the moment he noticed the 2 pools of blood, and that Ding Fengchun was down on his knees. The old man cast a glance at the young man who was standing in front of Ding Fengchun and threw out the question coldly, "What is going on here?" This was a serious event, but someone had committed physical assault and murder, shedding blood. Whichever the reason was, such behavior could not be condoned. The onlookers were emboldened since Master Bai and Lone Star were there. Someone went to Master Bai and told him about what had happened. Since it was that person's version of the story, he didn't conceal his rage toward Su Ping. Given that all of them were trainers, except for Su Ping, no one would take his side. Among the onlookers, some usually did envy Ding Fengchun and did not feel sorry for what had happened to him. Yet, in front of Master Bai, they all put on angry faces, showing that they shared a bitter hatred for the enemy. The onlookers were adding the trimmings. After some hesitation, Shahaoqi decided to step up. However, just as he moved, Chen and Dai Lemao stopped him. They shook their heads at him, trying to tell him to back down. Su Ping had committed a capital felony. Even if he were a master trainer, the Trainers Association would not accept him as a member. The fact that a trainer from another base city was allowed to commit murder there was detrimental to the reputation of the Trainers Association headquarters. What would become of Su Ping had been determined the moment he resorted to violence. Shahaoqi understood his friend's intention from the look in their eyes. A second of silence later, he broke free from his friend's blocking and hurried to Master Bai. Shahaoqi bowed to him and then quickly explained the entire event. He used objective words, favoring neither Su Ping nor Ding Fengchun. But in the end, he did carefully choose some words to beg for Su Ping, hoping that some leniency could be shown to the young man. Chen and Dai Lemao looked at each other and heaved a sigh. "You said he's a master trainer from another base city, right?" After Shahaoqi's explanation, Master Bai darted a look at the young man. His glance lingered for 1 second before he asked Shahaoqi again, "You mentioned he had an invitation, and that he was the one that we especially invited. Is that so?" "Yes. I have already verified the fact." Shahaoqi nodded. The rest of the onlookers were unable to believe this. This young man is a master trainer? A master trainer this young? Besides, everyone had witnessed how he killed a titled battle pet warrior with one punch. That is to say, he is both a master trainer and a titled battle pet warrior. There had been records of people like him before. Some top trainers were also at the titled rank as battle pet warriors. However, people like this were few and far between. They would usually be advanced in age, 70 or 80 years old if not 100. They had to spend a long time and use many resources and herbs to make that achievement. After all, to develop as a trainer would be an ordeal in itself, not to mention cultivating astral powers at the same time. Master Bai looked at Xiaoqi. He knew that Xiaoqi was a hard-working master trainer, but he was actually wondering if Xiaoqi's brain had been fried. Of course, this was not the time to argue with Xiaoqi about the young man's identity. Master Bai pulled a long face as he shifted his gaze to Ding Fengchun, who was still on his knees. I don't care who you are, but this is the headquarters of the Trainers Association. Are you aware that it is a serious offense to humiliate a master trainer in public? He said to Su Ping. Go and help Master Ding up, Master Bai told a middle-aged man. To let a master trainer remain on his knees was insulting. That middle-aged man was also a master trainer. He nodded to Master Bai and hurried over to where Master Ding was. The middle-aged man darted a glare at Su Ping, who stayed indifferent to the whole matter. The middle-aged man grabbed Ding Fengchuan's arms, trying to help him up. Did I say that you could touch him? Su Ping asked the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man flew into a rage. Punk, what do you think you're doing? This is the headquarters of the Trainers Association, not the Longjiang base city. Who gave you the courage to misbehave? The middle-aged man was not sure about how much truth there was in Xiaoqi's explanation, but one thing was sure, that the young man was from another base city, a Class B base city. Kneel. Su Ping pulled a long face. He made another astral power hand. Immediately, the middle-aged man felt an overwhelming pressure coming down on him. A force so strong that he could not resist pushed him down, making him land on his knees. That scene had shut everyone up. It was shocking that the young man had even dared to strike at the middle-aged man who was acting according to orders given by Master Bai. He had made two master trainers kneel in front of him. How crazy! Have you lost your mind? How dare you, a punk from another base city, come and behave atrociously here? The master trainers were enraged by Su Ping. Master Bai had turned pale from anger. Lone Star, capture him, he bellowed. Lone Star was also taken aback by Su Ping's action. The moment Su Ping generated the astral power hand, Lone Star had confirmed that Su Ping was indeed a titled battle pet warrior. He had never heard of a titled battle pet warrior of such a young age. Not to mention one who dared to create a disturbance at the headquarters of the Trainers Association in the Holy Light base city. The trainers working at the headquarters were mediocre in combat, but no one had ever had the courage to show up and make trouble in years.